All the stories in the world originally came from one source, a mine in the remote desolate place where only the story miners lived. The stories came in many shapes and sizes, some heavy and bulky, some smooth and delicate, others sharp and awkward to hold but one common property. Something in each shone or glittered, reflecting light in its own special way. The stories were dispatched, unrefined, across the world to people who had no knowledge of the mine's existence, and when they came across the stories in their own locality, they assumed that it belonged to them. Over many centuries, the mine work grew deeper and more complex, and when one steam was exhausted, another was opened. Still, it became increasingly difficult to find the exact new stories, and this happened the miners themselves grew fewer. The older generations died, younger families left, seeking less demanding and more rewarding work. The time came when only one miner remained, a strong and skillful labourer, but this one of his kind. One day he came up from the mine empty-handed, and there were no more stories down there. Sad though he was to see the end of a long tradition, the miner was off a realistic man. He collected his tools and personal belongings and set off in search of a new occupation. How long he walked is not recorded, but eventually he left behind the bleak landscapes familiar to him, and travelled through a country of thick forests, green meadows, rushing rivers, and cultivated fields. He passed through villages, towns, and spent time in huge cities. He began to notice lying on the roadside or marking the edges of flower bed in parks and gardens, or abandoned heaps in disused warehouses. The same multi-uniform stories that he'd once mined, he collected several of the discarded ones, and used his tools to recruit or polish them a little, and then he walked on, discreetly disposing them in pubs and churches and schools and theatres, places of work, places of play. And when people came across one of these slightly altered stories, they picked it up and took it home, assuming it belonged to them.